This next video will stop you in your tracks.
We're going to turn now to the tragic story, this one out of Ohio.
A disturbing and frankly bizarre story.
A bizarre tragedy unfolded outside Springfield.
A scam call turned deadly.
2 people ensnared by a scammer.
The horrific, deadly shooting of a 61-year-old Uber driver.
A scam hitting Ohio, and it has turned deadly.
Getting a report of a female that has been shot.
Before we show you this video, it could be hard to watch.
Deadly encounter between 2 people who did not know each other and were both victims of phone scammers.
They say she was scammed into going there to pick up a package.
A scuffle broke out. Hall was shot dead.
Does what we just saw empower these people who are up to no good?
The scammers don't care that Loletha was murdered.
There is no reason to shoot when somebody is trying to leave your property.
Brock has been charged with murder. Murder.
And we have to warn you, the video is disturbing.
Lo-Letha Hall was shot 3 times and later died.
This is an absolute disaster. Guys, this is going to be a very different kind of video than you're used to from us. We spend a tremendous amount of time immersing ourselves into topics and realities that are morbid, sad, or disturbing. But in just about every instance, we're able to inject a fair bit of jest so we don't all go into a depression. But this time, I don't think that's gonna be possible. This isn't a scam bait. This isn't a cash mule sting operation. This is a real world tragedy. A murder brought on by the same insufferable roaches that birth those scam phone calls that we spend every single day working to expose. Now, this story actually broke a couple of weeks ago, and no less than 69,000 of you emailed it to us asking if we were going to comment or make a video about it. So here we are. And don't worry, if you haven't heard what happened yet, I'm going to explain it right now in explicit detail. I'm also going to share with you some of my additional findings and offer a perspective as one of the few that are actually confronting scammer cash mules on a regular basis. And before we go any further, I'm going to warn you that the story you're about to hear and the footage you're about to see are disturbing. South Charleston, Ohio. This is William Brock, an 81-year-old man who was the victim of an impersonation phone scam. The ones where they call victims and tell them that one of their family members is in trouble. They're usually impersonating some kind of law enforcement authority, and they demand some type of bail money or ransom in order to return said family member home safely. William Brock fell into the scammer's trap and was prepared to box up the $12,000 that the scammers were demanding at the threat of hurting his family. But somewhere along the way, William either decided that he wasn't going to take any more shit or realized that it was all horseshit and inevitably went batshit. But as far as the scammers were concerned, William had a box of $12,000 in cash that was ready to be picked up at his home. Now this is Lo-Letha Hall. She's a 61-year-old Uber driver who received an Uber request for a package pickup service through Uber. This is a feature of Uber. They're not just for awkward backseat car rides and late-night couscous delivery. But we're going to talk about that more in a minute. So the scammers are telling William Brock that one of their associates, presumably to him, a kidnapper or at least a thief, will be arriving at his house shortly to pick up the money that they're trying to steal from him. And the scammers are also telling Loletha via Uber that she's on her way to a house to do a routine courier pickup and drop off. What could go wrong? On March 25th, 2024, just after 11 a.m. local time, Lo-Letha Hall arrives to William Brock's house in South Charleston, Ohio. William Brock greets her at gunpoint, charges at her, and despite her non-threatening pleas of innocence, he shoots her 3 times to her death. Viewer discretion is advised. I have so many questions. I don't even know where the to start. Here's a good place. This guy. Sorry, not sorry. Now don't get me wrong, I have immense sympathy for scam victims. My entire business is consumed with this topic. But this murder was as unnecessary as an ejector seat in a helicopter. I don't care what the mitigating factors were surrounding this moment. In the moment, this woman posed absolutely zero physical threat to William. What the f***? Now, I'm no lawyer, and I have no interest in preaching politics on this channel. It ain't gonna happen. But for those that don't know, the state of Ohio imposes what's called the Stand Your Ground law, which in short means that a person using force in self-defense, defense of another, or defense of that person's residence, and had reasonable belief that the force was necessary to prevent injury, loss, or risk of life or safety, has no obligation to retreat away from the alleged perpetrator prior to executing said force. In simpler words, if you're being threatened by an intruder, you're not required to go run and hide prior to taking action, even if that action is deadly. Now, this is contrary to some other states that impose what's called a duty to retreat law, which basically means that you're not allowed to protect your home with deadly force if a jury can prove that you could have avoided said conflict by retreating somewhere safe. I don't comment on politics. But for this story, none of this matters. William Brock had nothing to retreat from. There was no threat. He's not even in the house. I believe he came out of that house with the explicit, unwavering intent to harm her, because no matter what she said to him, it didn't matter. The gun was already cocked, and he pulled the trigger anyway. If anyone's retreating here, it's poor Loletha. I don't care how distraught you are about the surrounding circumstances of a scam or otherwise. This entire scam narrative is actually a completely secondary issue to this murder. Put the scam aside for a second. Let's assume you're Art, and you've got a pimple-faced, unarmed teenager trying to be a porch pirate and steal your matcha enemas or weekly salad supply or whatever the f he buys. Would Art confront the porch pirate? Yeah. Would he choke him? I can neither confirm nor deny. Would he viciously murder him in cold blood while he's trying to escape off the property? Absolutely f***ing not. William Brock was in a distressed, terrible, frightening situation. But for me, that doesn't excuse this, even in the slightest. William, you handled everything about this situation perfectly wrong. It couldn't be any more f***ed up if Tarantino wrote it. Let's break it down. Up 1, you intentionally engaged in conversations with scammers. Now, unless you're a trained professional like us, you shouldn't be doing that. And yes, I get that he probably didn't know that they were scammers at first, but at some point before the murder, he figured out something was awry. So why did you keep talking to them? Why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you call anyone else in your family? The scammers said your nephew was the one in trouble. Why didn't you call the nephew? He could have been at Dave & Buster's for f***'s sake. Why didn't you call literally anyone else close to you in your 81 years of life to verify this before deciding to maul an innocent woman with a gun? Cocked. The scammer said that they were gonna harm your family, but you didn't bother to talk to anyone in your family? You took all of this as fact from the onset, a mistake that usually just leads to financial loss in these scams, but this time it was a loss of life. This same exact scam happened to my grandmother back when she was around. She got a call from people claiming to be law enforcement in Mexico saying that me, her grandson, and they knew my name, was in trouble and arrested for drunk driving and needed bail money. They told her that I instructed them to call her instead of my parents because of my fear of their disapproval. They played on her heartstrings, but thank God she called my aunt right away for guidance, who was able to then verify my safe whereabouts by sending me a quick text message. That's all it took. F up 2. You came out aggressively with your gun in your hand, loaded, and cocked. You don't do that unless you're preparing to kill someone. We've had guns pulled on us many times. And in most cases, if somebody is trying to push forth an intimidation tactic, the mere presence of a gun, either visually or done by immediate direct threat, is enough to change the social dynamic in a nanosecond. For both of these guys, it was likely just an intimidation tactic. We didn't approach with any kind of physical or verbal threat. We were just there to ask questions, hence why none of us had to stare down a loaded barrel. The only time I've actually had a gun pointed at my face was when I was robbed at gunpoint while working at Blockbuster in 2012. A much different situation that chances are wouldn't have ended fatally, but I certainly wasn't willing to risk it for $9 an hour. And by the look in the robber's eyes, I could tell that his freedom was more important to him than my life, so I just let him have whatever the hell he wanted and we both went on our jolly ways. William Brock was arrested on April 10th, 2024, and is now facing a murder charge with a potential sentence of anywhere from 15 years to life in prison and a $15,000 fine. William Brock pled not guilty to the charge. He was held on $200,000 bail, and he posted bond and was released the next day. Now, if this wasn't upsetting enough to you already, be grateful you're not in my head. Here is a myriad of not fun facts and unanswered questions that have been swirling around my head since the day I heard about this. First of all, everywhere in the news they keep referring to this as two parties that were targeted by scammers. But this isn't really accurate. Loletha was not a scam victim, and she was not a cash mule. She had zero involvement or connection to these scammers. She was an Uber driver. Full stop. I find it a bit annoying when people attribute this tragedy to the insinuated negligence or gullibility of both parties.
Both of these two people, these two strangers, were part of this larger scam.
They were both unknowingly targeted by scammers.
Two people ensnared by a scammer.
Both were being targeted by a scam call.
They say she was scammed into going there to pick up a package.
They were both unwittingly victims of a phone scam.
Both victims of phone scammers.
She has bad information, he has bad information.
Both
victims of a scam.
Loletha holds zero responsibility for this tragedy, and yet she's the one that paid the ultimate price. A cash mule, by and large, is somebody that's instructed to move cash or a package unknown to them from one place to another. In other words, acting as a courier or transportation method that they normally would not be. Now, we've seen the full, wide spectrum of this setup in our many dozens of scammer confrontations that we've done over the years. Sometimes the cash mule is a victim, someone who's also under the scammer's ruse, receiving packages and moving money with the hopes that the scammer is going to fulfill his promises. Those promises usually include future payouts, future lost money recovery, and/or securing their computer or financial assets due to the presence of alleged hackers. Whether they're losing money, moving money, or both, these types of cash mules are just as much a victim as all the others. On the other side of that spectrum, you've got the lying, guilty bastards that know exactly what they're doing. They verbally confirm that they're representing the company that they're impersonating, they lie through their teeth at every turn, and will do whatever it takes to avoid confrontation and exposure. But that doesn't usually go too well for them. Especially f***ing Jack, whom we've since found out from an anonymous source that Jack is in a whole world of trouble, and this was definitely not his first time doing what he knew damn well was illegal. And we've seen everything in between. These scammers are crooks and thieves first, but they're professional social engineers second, and they will do whatever it takes to manipulate everyone that their scheme comes in contact with. All of that's to say that perhaps the most heartbreaking element of this entire story, Loletha was none of those things. She was instructed through Uber as a paid contractor for that company to facilitate a package pickup. That's it. And that is a legitimate service that Uber offers. And for all intents and purposes, there was a package to be picked up. We hear this story around the country as a tragic but very rare ending to something that's more common than most people realize. Assuming William Brock never got wise to the scam and continued fulfilling the scammer's demands, like millions of victims do every single year, then Loletha would have had an actual package to pick up and deliver. She did absolutely nothing wrong. She wasn't manipulated. She didn't fall for a ruse. She wasn't taken advantage of. She was literally doing her job, a job very much within the confines of Uber's terms of service as far as her duties are concerned, a job she would have been paid for, and rightfully so. She wasn't targeted by scammers. She was used by scammers to do what she already does every single day. Any loss of life is a tragedy, obviously, but this hits so much harder when it involves someone like Loletha, whose only mistake was simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. A complete random act of evil that will leave lasting impacts on her family for the rest of their lives. And this brings me to my next thought. Why the f*** does this anonymous package pickup drop-off feature in the Uber app even exist? Like, what the f***? Like, what the f***? Scammers used to use the mail a lot more frequently, like UPS and FedEx, but after a lot of exposure on that started exploding, they shifted to more common in-person pickups with local accomplices. But then after that method started becoming unreliable, now they're resorting to utilizing legal loopholes in big tech companies to exploit innocent people that should have absolutely nothing to do with this. If I want to ship something valuable through UPS or FedEx, or let's even just say for gits and shiggles that I'm trying to mail a boatload of cash to someone discreetly, completely. I still have to fill out forms, I have to put a return address, show my ID, I have to link my identity to this property in some form or fashion, and hence linking the recipient's identity on the other end. And I'm not naive to think that people don't use the mail to send sketchy shit, I'm sure it happens every day. But at least in this case, there's some form of protection by association for the delivery employees. They wear uniforms, they've got company trucks. It's visually and conceptually obvious that they're not culpable in any kind of negligence or accountability when it comes to any illicit materials that may be inside these packages. Uber drivers, on the other hand, are just civilians in their cars. So what the f is this? If I'm an Uber driver who's an independent contractor with no official badge or corporate identification, only minimum car insurance is required by law, and now I'm expected to go to any random sketchy f***ing house, pick up a package that has God knows what in it, and transport it to another even more sketchy f***ing house without asking any questions? I'm pretty sure they made an action movie trilogy about how ridiculous and dangerous this is.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind transporting something for me. No questions asked. Why not?
The Transporter.
This is crazy to me. And although Loletha's death is the most tragic version of this story, this is not an isolated incident. A similar confrontation happened just a few weeks ago with a different Uber driver. Thankfully, it didn't end in murder, but the circumstance was almost identical. Watch this shit.
2 days before that incident, he received messages from a passenger asking him to stop on the way to pick up documents.
How you doing?
Good, come on out. Right now.
All right.
Come on out. Get out of there.
What?
Get out. Come on out.
The man claimed Young was there to pick up $5,000 to get his grandson out of jail in Cleveland.
Not to mention, let's go to the Uber app right now and see how easy it is for me to orchestrate a cash package pickup without including any identifying information about myself. I'll even start by signing up for a brand new account. This is a screen recording of me doing exactly that, from scratch. Now let's say I'm a scammer and I want no trace back to myself. First question, enter a phone number. Well, I am a scam baiter, so I have VoIP numbers coming out my asshole. Imagine how many VoIP numbers scammers have. For those that don't know, a VoIP number, or Voice over Internet Protocol number, is basically a virtual phone number. You use it like a regular phone number, except VoIP numbers facilitate phone calls using an internet connection. So there's no data provider, there's no connection to my personal info, and even by doing a deep scan of one of my most used VoIP numbers, my real name and even my scam bait character names are nowhere to be found as traceable to this number. And with this particular app, Text Now, I pay a couple bucks a week and it includes all the same features of a regular cell phone number up to and including two-factor authentication, as Uber is facilitating right now. Big shocker, it worked. Now we enter an email, and this could be literally anything. You could open a brand new Gmail right now and use that. Nothing's linked to you. I'll just put Mortimer's email in here for right now. That works too. Didn't even have to verify that one. What's even scarier is I could have put literally anyone else's email there. Enter the first and last name. I can put literally anything. No check, no ID upload. This is insanity. As long as I accept them terms of service, I'm good to go. So once we're in the app, right after rides and scooter rentals, which I am still fond of, we have an option here for package. I've got options to send a package, return a package, or receive a package, all of which will be performed discreetly by a random Uber driver who just happens to be signed in to work. If I'm a scammer, I'm gonna want to receive a package. So what does it need? The pickup location and the drop-off location. And I can put anything in here. I'm given options for Ubers that are as little as 3 minutes away to pick up my goods from Banana Bungalow in Los Angeles and promptly deliver it straight to my house across town for 26 bucks. All I gotta do is add a payment method and I'm confirmed. Holy shady shitballs. So now knowing all this, take a listen to Uber's statement that they made about this incident.
We reached out to Uber and they responded with this statement saying in part, quote, "There was no other way to describe this incident than a horrific tragedy." Uber also went on to say the account of the individual who ordered the Uber trip has been banned.
They've banned the account. You mean kind of like the account I just made in 3 minutes using fake information? It's like banning a VoIP phone number or reporting a fake scammer's name. Doesn't do shit. In this case, they trace the VoIP number to Canada, but unless they want to go moose riding, it's going to be a complete waste of time to pursue that. Literally anyone can get a VoIP number for free, and in many cases, you can even pick the locale. Google Voice is a perfect example. Pick a city, any city. Now, I'm not bagging on it because I use it myself, but every effective tool will have good uses and evil ones. And at the end of the day, the scammers have already planned for this, as we explained in our interview with TMZ just earlier this week.
I highly doubt that the cops are going to have any traction with this.
We have run into this problem. Obviously, this is a much deeper case because there's a murder involved.
Why you cannot, if you already want to hurt somebody,
Why don't you, if you already made the decision to do that, just do like one for the, like up in the air, or like do something in the leg or something. Why do you need to shoot like, what is she? She brought grenades or freaking bazooka? Is it like 10 people show up at your door?
This woman wasn't even a cash mule. She was literally just sent an Uber request to go pick up a package. I'm actually surprised something like this didn't happen sooner. It's horrible. I'm heartbroken for Loletha and her family.
Another problem I have that no one is asking, where was that package supposed to be dropped off? Now I'm gonna hold on to hope that somebody in this investigation has thought of this and is looking into it, but as I just showed you, the pickup location as well as the drop-off location have to be input before the service can be quoted and ordered. That drop-off location should have been the very next stop for these cops. At least that's what I would have done. And if you've watched any of our videos, you can understand why we can never assume what we're gonna run into when we pursue these confrontations. We research the most, hope for the best, and prepare for the worst. But in this particular case of Loletha, at least with my experience, you'd have a very high chance of encountering someone that's even deeper involved in this scam by visiting that delivery address, because it was supposed to be cash in the box. And considering they were using Loletha, not a cash mule, a civilian, having zero involvement in the scam, they're not gonna have her do all the necessary errands of opening the box, going to a Bitcoin machine, yada 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 like they usually do. They only do that with trusted accomplices or heavily vetted victims, of which Loletha is neither. With this being Loletha's first and only involvement with this particular theft, if I'm thinking like the scammer, I wanna get that box away from her as soon as possible, and into the hands of someone that's trained to wash the cash and beam it out overseas. Why is nobody asking this question? Am I missing something? A very similar scam we deal with often on this channel is the PCH scam, or the Publisher's Clearinghouse scam, where they tell the victim that they've won a drawing or a lottery and they just have to pay the registration fees or taxes first before receiving their payout. Different roadmap leading to the steal, but lots of crossover in the methods used to get the cash out of the victim's hands. Last year, we did this video, where we staged a fake funeral prank and baited scammers to our house to pick up what they thought was hundreds of thousands of dollars. Same scam, same pretend victim, but a very wide variance in the types of mules that showed up. On the scarier side, we had what appeared to be a group of organized crime bosses surrounding the house, scoping it out for hours before approaching the door, and then subsequently running away like little bitches when we confronted them about it. The sprinting bearded nun might have had something to do with that. And on the lighter side, we had a completely innocent taxi driver who, just like Loletha, was responding to a legitimate service call to pick up a package from an elderly man. He had no idea what it was for. It wasn't his concern. He was being paid to make the pickup and transport the box as per his company's service agreement. That's it. And he proved this to us by showing us the actual order on his company car computer. And you won't believe this, but there is another thing that bothers me about this story: the inconsistent reporting of the nature of the actual scam. William received a call about his nephew being in trouble. Very common tactic. In some reports, they're saying that the scammers were portraying cops demanding bail money.
Police say it all started when Brock received multiple calls from scammers who told him a relative had been arrested and demanded $12,000 for bail.
And we need X amount of money to let your grandson out of jail right now. We can come over and pick it up. One of his relatives was in jail and needed money to post bail.
His nephew was in jail, and Brock needed to take out $12,000 in cash in order to bail his nephew out.
And in others, they're saying that the scammers were being thugs demanding a ransom.
And he was telling me he was going to kill me and the family and everybody else around.
The scammer's starting to threaten his life and also threaten his nephew's life.
He said he had been threatened all day over the phone, and the person on the other line said that she was coming to kill Brock.
Well, which one is it? Bail money or ransom? Ransom implies a kidnapping, which doesn't sync up with the bail money story. Now, I know scammers can be stupid and they tend to change their stories all the time, but this is a really important distinction. If Brock thought he was making a payment for bail money to law enforcement, then why the f did he answer the door with a gun?
Brock allegedly had a gun. This video appears to confirm that.
Yeah, no shit. If the scammers were portraying law enforcement, that completely contradicts his claim about the scammers threatening to kill his family. Furthermore, even if the scammers were threatening to hurt his family, I find it really hard to believe that the scammers would make the claim that it would be the pickup person that would be harming the family.
I was threatened that she was going to come and kill me.
Take my word for it, these scammers want these package transfers to be as discreet, orchestrated, and monitored as possible. There is no way on earth they would introduce a point of contention between two unsuspecting victims by insinuating that the pickup person could be a physical threat to Brock, which further emphasizes my question, why the was Brock armed for this conversation? So at this point in the video, Loletha has been shot, begging for her life, while Brock continues to shoot her in cold blood. I mean, what the f***? And shortly thereafter, he makes the 911 call.
Well, I shot her in the leg first time, and I shot her in the shoulder.
Why did you do that?
Because I was threatened that she was going to come and kill me. The guy on the phone center here.
Okay. So the male on the phone was trying to get money from you, and she was knocking on the door at the same time?
Yes, and he was telling me he was going to kill me and the family and everybody else around.
Shortly after, the police arrived and Loletha was transported to a hospital where she eventually passed away from her injuries. But the story continues. Check out this police body cam footage at Brock's house after the incident.
I'm sure glad to see you guys out here because I've been on this phone for a couple hours with this guy trying to save me. Had a nephew in jail, had a wreck in Charleston, and just kept hanging on and needing bond money, and what this woman was supposed to. Yeah, figured it.
All right,
I kept getting different names and different stories out of it.
All the reports made a comment about the scammers calling Brock's house phone incessantly while all this was going on, and I believe that 100%. We bait scammers into these confrontations all the time, and one of the few things that remain consistent is the scammers' obsession with dictating every single step and their interminable calls before, during, and after the exchange to make sure nothing else gets in the way of them and their money. Ironically, the real police picked up that call, where the scammer continues to play the part.
May I ask who I'm talking to?
Yeah, this is the officer speaking.
Okay, what officer?
Yes.
No, I need to know what officer, sir.
You're gonna be in trouble.
Okay. Let me ask you this. The female you sent over here, you know who she is?
Yes, I do.
It's here we can confirm that the scammers are pretending to be law enforcement, which makes sense with the bail money story, but not so much with the family being threatened story. Why would law enforcement be threatening to kill his family if he couldn't produce bail money? It doesn't make any sense. It's all making this gunpoint encounter look a lot worse for William. Why are we making this video? Haters, you can save your fucking breath. I know exactly what you're going to say, that we're just trying to capitalize on something that we had nothing to do with. And that's fine, you can feel that way. But that literally couldn't be further from the truth. This is why we're making this video. Number one, awareness. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but when there's a tragedy involved, a murder, awareness is the only thing that's going to prevent this from happening again. Now, we didn't break this story. This came out a couple weeks ago. All this disturbing video and police reports are public record. But despite all the national news coverage and the inundation of emails from viewers, I was still shocked to see how many people were unaware of this event when I mentioned it on a live stream just a few days ago. But you didn't need us to find out about this. You could have seen it on TMZ, CBS, NBC, Fox, all of which have pre-roll ads, by the way. Haters. So either have equal opportunity outrage or just shut the f up. But we're not a news organization. Honestly, it took us a little time to even formulate the words of how to address and even talk about this topic. But if there's anything positive that can come out of this, it's more people knowing about this story and encouraging more people like you who are privy to scam baiting to educate our elders more. Even if you watch scam baiting videos, these types of scams in particular, you hardly ever see videos about. Scams like these where they're impersonating loved ones are really hard to track, and they're even harder to bait because they're not typically executed with robocall randomness. For the scam to work, the scammers have to research you and your family members' names and target you specifically. There's no generic phone number or spam email for us scam baiters to engage with. So unless a victim sends it to us mid-scam, we really have no way of engaging with the scammer mid-bait. We need to remind our family members, especially the elderly, that anytime anyone is pressuring you to do anything at all over the phone, stop and ask questions. Ask your loved ones for advice. Research the caller's claims independently. Don't just take their words at face value. And remind them that under no circumstances will any authority or government agency demand personal information or money over the phone. Check out the FTC website for more information about these scams, and I highly recommend that you as a family set a password that only your family members know about. An emergency password that has to be verbalized over the phone before responding or acting upon any urgent requests. Because I can tell you this, these types of scams are gonna get 1,000 times worse with AI. With voice cloning and deepfakes, pretty soon we're gonna start seeing these same scams executed over FaceTime. Someone pretending to be your loved one to your face. Set up a password, ask questions, and don't let anybody pressure you. Number 2, you forgot I was counting. Second reason for this video, we want to help Loletha's family. I spent many hours last week trying to get in touch with Loletha's family. And while I uncovered all the info I needed and more, I still haven't received any response. I've sent Facebook messages, text messages, and emails to Loletha's son and 2 close sisters, but no reply as of yet. And that is completely understandable. But I made it very clear in my inquiry that I want nothing from them other than to let them know that we are willing to help if they're willing to accept it. That's it. I did find Loletha's memorial page and a place to leave condolences, but unfortunately I haven't found a GoFundMe or any fundraiser to donate to that I can verify is legitimate. Loletha's family is surely getting inundated with inquiries similar to mine, so please, as a viewer, do not contribute to that. They're dealing with enough. All I want to say is that if any of Loletha's family is watching this, and if for any reason you haven't seen my messages, please take a look, and if you feel like responding, I would love to help. Before I end this video with a little tribute to Loletha and some supportive words from our scam baiting community, I wanted to show you one more thing. We have a video coming out in the near future about a woman named Carol. We met Carol through a sting operation we were doing while she was trying to do a cash package pickup just like Loletha. But unlike Loletha, Carol was actively being scammed as well. Scammed so deeply that she's on the verge of losing her house. She arrived to the pickup, scared out of her mind, armed with a loaded and cocked pistol. But instead of anyone harming her at the door, she met us, Trilogy Media. And we were able to intervene immediately and help her get out of this 2-year-long scam that she had been sucked into. Now, this story isn't out yet, but it's coming soon, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, pretty please. But considering the timing, we shared this story of Loletha with Carol as a warning of what could have happened, and this was her response.
What did you think of that article I sent you?
Oh, that's horrible.
You know, and this
That is unbelievable. I was like, I must be nuts. Well, I told them I'd go get it. They gave me the day off at work to be able to go get it. And I told my husband before I left I was going and what I was going for. He said, Mama, be careful. I said, baby, I got my gun. He said, well, make sure you got it cocked. I said, it is. I mean, I was panicking then. He told me it was documents that I had to pick up. I didn't get that far asking. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I must be crazy. And then my best friend told me, she said, Carol, see, you are crazy if you go. I said, well, I guess I'm crazy, Bonnie, because I'm going to try. I'm going to go see. They asked me to pick up these documents. I'm going to go pick them up.
Okay.
Thank God.
We're going to continue sharing this story with every future money mule that we come in contact with as a reminder of the dangers that they're involved in and the gratitude they should feel that the worst hasn't happened to them. We at Trilogy Media will make sure Loletha has a continued legacy to help many future scam victims see the light and not be afraid to speak up and ask for help to walk away from these scammers that have such a tight grasp on their lives.
So if you saw me, you saw my mom. And if you saw my mom, you more than likely saw me. We had a bond like no other. Sure, she was my mother first and foremost, but she was also my best friend.
This narrative depicts a deeply distressing tragedy. Unfortunately, it is one that many of us have foreseen.
When I first saw the story, so many feelings came rushing to the surface. There was an overwhelming sadness, then anger, frustration, and call to action. This is a tragedy for everyone, and my heart goes out to Loletha's family.
I look at this and I just think to myself, I don't know how many times I've watched this, but it's extremely, extremely sad. Scam victim pointing gun at innocent Uber driver before allegedly killing her.
Hey everybody, it's Ben with Pleasant Green. Just wanted to share with you a couple thoughts on recent happenings.
You know, these scammers, they do what they do and they justify what they do because they think that their victims will, that they're just experiencing some kind of setback, some kind of inconvenience, and that they'll be fine. And a lot of times these victims will be fine, they will recover, financially speaking, but scammers don't think about the catastrophic collateral damage that they're inflicting on these victims. They don't think about the shame that these victims feel, the embarrassment, the toll that it takes on their relationships with their loved ones, the depression.
Today we come to stand and celebrate that Loletha was some of the best of us. And we across the Adams, the Tolan, and the Hall family are better because she has been a part of us.
The increase in occurrences of the grandparent scam has imposed substantial financial burdens on our elderly population. Now it has culminated in the loss of an innocent life.
This is Jim Browning and the horrific news about the lady who was shot and killed. It's just horrific that someone died as a result of a scam. And quite honestly, I think this is only a matter of time. The scammers do not care about the people that they involve in the scam. Whether it's to scam victims directly, or in the case of the Uber driver, when they're told to pick up a package, indirectly scam someone else.
There's so many thoughts that I have. Oftentimes I think of how much more we need to do to educate people about scams. And perhaps this gentleman, he knew it was a scam. Maybe he caught on and he just felt like he wasn't going to put up with it. He wasn't going to be extorted. He wasn't going to have his money stolen. And unfortunately for him, I feel like he was put in a situation where he felt like it didn't matter what this person said, this innocent Uber driver, it didn't matter what she said. He felt like she was part of the scam. But it's unbelievable, and I feel for everyone involved.
The use of victims by scammers underscores the psychological manipulation at play. By exploiting the trust and sympathy of individuals who have already been deceived, scammers perpetuate a cycle of victimization.
Trilogy, I know you guys have seen far too many instances of this happening where people are brought into scams and they're not fully aware of what's going on. And this is definitely the case here.
It's been 12 days and counting since I last heard her voice, and that's what hurts the most.
We come today in all of our grief and sorrow, but I am reminded that often in grief comes this humble gratitude that just makes us weep because we know how lucky we are.
Unless these companies that are, in a sense, facilitating these types of scams, like the telecommunication companies who allow scammers to use their services, the web hosting services that allow these scammers to have websites, these remote access software companies that allow scammers to use their software over and over and over again to place things in people's computers and steal their identities and scam them and extort them and do all these kinds of things, send these threatening messages.
So many questions left unanswered, and it angers me that the scammer who is responsible for so much pain will likely never face charges and will continue destroying lives.
We have seen this tactic used many times, but it is becoming more and more prevalent. As the scammer's network of victims increases, so do the chances of real victims becoming involved.
Ultimately, someone has lost their life. This Ohio man looks like he will be jailed for murder, and the people who get away with this are the scammers.
Uber, who, as far as I knew, was a pickup and ride service, and there's Uber Eats where you deliver food. I'm not sure that, I didn't know there was Uber FedEx Express all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like, I think Uber should cut that entire division out of their company.
We don't know the level of torment and social engineering that the victim of the ransom scam went through before he made a horrible decision to shoot and kill an innocent person. But we do know that the scammer did not care.
This poor lady, all she was doing was like her job as an Uber driver. And these scammers set this up.
Nothing good comes from this. Sometimes it results in suicide, and sometimes it results in something crazy like what we just saw.
The way out of all of this is to be aware of what goes on in scams. If someone is threatening you, if they're saying that you have to pay something, if they're saying that there is money which has been lost from your bank account, all of that has to be taken with skepticism. And the more that we can get our videos over to particularly older people, they seem to be affected most, I think it will help long term.
I hope that somehow, some way, maybe laws or legislation gets passed that will completely make it so that these companies are held accountable. All these companies need to be held accountable somehow, some way.
When someone falls for a scam, their trust in other people just goes away. They become paranoid and they do crazy, terrible things like what we saw. And people who had nothing to do with the scam end up paying the price.
It's also frustrating that there's not enough information out there to educate everyone. Like so many other scam baiters, we make YouTube videos to try to educate as many as we can. But the target demographic of the scammers do not tend to watch YouTube.
I feel almost like, as a scam baiter, I feel not really in the sense of helpless, but I just want us to be taken more serious.
You just have to think, like, if you're a scammer or just anybody who thinks that you're going to try to make a quick buck or get ahead by deceiving another human being, nothing good comes from that. Nothing. Only bad, terrible, awful things can happen as a result of you trying to harm and take advantage of somebody else.
We need more media coverage on this scam and so many others. We need everybody warning their loved ones. We need to look at why Uber drivers are being asked to pick up random boxes with no regulation. Doesn't Uber have a responsibility to regulate what their drivers are transporting?
The reports that we send in, the information that we gather, all these things where telecommunication companies could, in a sense, like maybe partner with us so that we can actually make a bigger difference.
You just got to ask yourself, is it really worth doing? Is it worth having that on your conscience and living your life knowing that you were the cause of something so horrific? Nothing good comes from when you're trying to deceive or scam or take advantage of somebody.
While this story is shocking to the masses and sad to everyone, we deal with scammers and mules every day. And we see the potential for this to happen as we investigate scams and work with victims. It is the reason we do what we do, to educate as many as we can. It should not take an act like this to get more coverage on these scams.
To Trilogy, please keep up your good work. Please keep going after those money mules. Some of them do know what they're into, but others, as in this case, do not.
We just can't do it. We have to be better. We have to be better. We have to live better lives. And so my heart breaks for the families that were involved with this.
We have seen victims take their own lives after losing everything to an online scammer and felt they had no way out. We need to do better. We need to educate more people. We need to be talking about this.
As a scam baiting community, we have to just be better at making people more aware of this and just reminding people that this is not the way to live.
Thank you for all your sacrifices and all the things you have instilled in me. You are the best mom that anyone could ask for, and I promise to continue to make you proud.
Law enforcement, a lot of these people say it's not in their budget, or, the crime is not, a big enough crime. It's not $100,000 stolen money. It's an attempted crime. Oh, we don't have the resources for this. Well, that's where scam baiters come in, and I hope that we can be taken seriously, because a tragedy like this should not have happened. A victim taking out another victim. It is sad, tragic, shocking. I really don't have words.
We at Trilogy Media and the rest of the scam baiting community send our most heartfelt condolences to Loletha's loved ones, and we will continue our fight against scammers in her honor. Loletha, may you rest in peace. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was a rough one, but our hearts said that this was necessary. Look forward to more videos very soon. Please like and subscribe to the Trilogy Media YouTube channel, and we'll leave all relevant links below, including our link to our sponsor, Guardio, who are the whole reason why we're able to continue our fight against scammers every single day. A scam can be stopped before it even has a chance to start for those that have Guardio. Online browsing protection, dark web monitoring, spam text and email filtering, and so much more. Use our link guard.io/trilogy for a discount and a free trial to try it risk-free, and get up to 5 family members fully protected with one single affordable subscription. Click the link below and secure your family's online life now. The TMZ feature will be linked below, and if you want to see the entire unedited interview, we're going to throw it up on Trilogy Plus. Thanks again as always for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.